I'm Dana Gentry, Communications Director at SEIU. Today we're talking with Alexander Marks. He's a Senate candidate in District 18. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
So on your website you talk about being interested in education. As you know, the last legislature supported a measure that allowed school vouchers to be used in private schools. Yep. Is that something that you're going to attempt to repeal in the next session?
Yes, absolutely. I know the issue right now is currently making its way through the courts. It's possible we won't have to actually repeal it if the courts come down a certain way, but obviously we are prepped if we do have to repeal that. We've already sat with the NSEA and the CCEA, the teachers associations locally, to kind of come up with a plan to figure out how we're going to repeal this law. I think the law is bad. I think it's inevitably going to just pull millions of dollars away from the public system and put it into the private system, where we're essentially as taxpayers subsidizing private education. I think if we're going to have a focus on public education, that is certainly not the focus. We just need to have a fully funded system. We did a lot of great things last session for education. We created a lot of great programs and we made a lot of strides in terms of funding them, but then we go and pass a bill like that kind of undercuts that intent really is to fund that public school. So yeah, absolutely, we're looking to repeal that law.
Okay. You also talk about renewables. Are you concerned with all of the controversy over net metering that's going to be difficult to attract companies who are interested in renewable energy?
Absolutely. I mean, I think we've been doing really well with the governor's clean energy plan, I think, in terms of making sure that our renewable energy is 25% of Nevada by 2025, I think it is, and we're definitely on pace. I think we're right now.
That's the portfolio standard.
Right. I think we're right now at about 18%, but in terms of one tiny little PUC decision kind of dictating how Nevada is viewed in terms of its solar energy, absolutely it's going to deter businesses from coming here. So I'm hopeful that the task force that they've implemented will come out with great recommendations that at least will grandfather the 17,000 in and then either figure it out, but it's got to be net metering in my opinion. That's the way to entice people to invest in solar, and there's a lot of people in my district who have solar panels who are currently saying, why did I make this investment if I'm paying the exact same amount in terms of the exact same pay structure? And I think that was wrong, and I think that that's what has to be reversed.
And what do you say to the people who say, well, we don't want to subsidize their power usage?
It's a tough argument because it's, we can debate all day whether or not it's a subsidy or it is a subsidy or it isn't a subsidy, but I think, there are people who made that investment who want to make sure that they get the return on that investment. But I think net metering is the way it has to be in terms of making that investment for solar. It's not just for individual families, it's also for the state of Nevada, it's for our infrastructure, it's for the environment. I think, there's a lot of factors at play that people don't really necessarily realize when they just assume that they're paying for someone else to get clean energy. And I think that's, a messaging issue, it's an education issue, but it's also a larger narrative that we do have to invest in these things. And we are doing some great things with renewable energy, and up north we've got wind, we've got solar, we do have geothermal, we've got hydro pumping, and now we're kind of moving on to the storage of that with the battery plants and figuring out with things like molten salt how we're actually going to move this energy around. And I think that's definitely important. So I mean, it's an education thing on that issue, I believe.
As you know, Labor took a beating in the last session.
Yes.
And the best remedy would be, of course, to elect a slate of union-friendly candidates this time. But beyond that, what is the message you can make? What can you say to the other side of the aisle to say, it's really important to protect jobs and fair wages, pensions, that sort of thing?
My father was an IATSE member for about 30 years, so that was the stagehands union. So he moved out here in 1980, joined the stagehands, and he was with Les Follies and pretty much every show that opened and closed at the Trop until the late 2000s. And my grandfather also was a member of the musicians union, so union rights and collective bargaining rights very important to me, not only as a person but as a Democrat. And we did see it chipping away at that last time at the legislature, and I think that's bad. So what I would say to the other side is look to the history of Nevada, look who built this town, look who built this state. It was the unions who had such an integral part in our history. We cannot simply just reverse that and become Wisconsin overnight. It wouldn't be good for us. We already see the detriment, the bad effects rather, that Wisconsin's having when you do that to unions and collective bargaining rights. And in my opinion, collective bargaining rights are really the only thing that are giving people a livable wage around this state to begin with, because they get to argue and make their case to their employer why they should be paid a certain amount. And to me, that's fine. That's a contract that the employee signs. That's good. I understand that from that point of view, but I think that's what I tell the other side is look how good unions and collective bargaining rights have been to Nevada. They've built this town. You cannot simply reverse that. That is one of the things that makes Nevada what it is today, which is our unions, And like we said, you know, the energy, because we have a lot of sun out here and it's free and we need to figure out how to harness that. But you got to focus on what really makes Nevada the unique and special city it is, and that's our unions, that's our collective bargaining rights.
All right, Mr. Marks, thanks so much for joining us.
I appreciate your time. Thank you.